COVID-19 prevention. Well, you will recall that since the start of this coronavirus, this is going to be the third address of His Excellency the President Julius Maada Bio. And of course, before his address, we are going to have a kind of press conference wherein journalists from across Freetown, from all media houses, will be given the opportunity to ask questions relevant to what we are here for. So as we speak, we are currently awaiting the arrival of President Julius Maada Bio, who is to address the nation for the third time since the start of the fight of this coronavirus. We have dignitaries here, we have government officials here, we have the Minister of Information, we have the Minister of Health, we have the Minister of Internal Affairs and Deputy. We have senior journalists here, including the Umaru Fufan of the BBC. We have civil society activists here, and of course,
we are strictly in compliance with the 100% compliance.
All right. As you can hear from the background, we are definitely up to 100 here, because we all know that there is a law being passed that gatherings above 100 are definitely not allowed. And so therefore we have just been informed by the Minister of Information and Communication. Ladies and gentlemen, at any time from now, the President will be here.
Welcome the arrival of His Excellency the President, Dr. Julius Maada Bio. Thank you very much. Your Excellency the President, the Honorable Vice President, Ministers, members of the press. Let me start by thanking members of the press and members of the CSOs for coming here at such a very short notice. We are going to have a very short program which will start with an address by the Excellency the President, and then later we'll have 5 questions from the press. On this note, I want to invite very respectfully a statement from His Excellency the President.
The Honorable Vice President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. From the outset, my government has prioritized action to prevent, protect, and curtail the spread of the highly infectious and deadly coronavirus. We have strongly urged citizens to observe enhanced hygiene practices, social distancing, and cough etiquette. We continue to actively disseminate information through various modes about symptoms of COVID-19 and have urged all citizens to report themselves, loved ones, or community members who may exhibit flu-like symptoms, including a fever, dry cough, and difficulty breathing. We have bolstered our surveillance and response structures and facilities. We have appointed a lean government of Sierra Leone COVID-19 response team led by the interim coordinator, retired Brigadier Hassan Kelly Conte, the Minister of Defense. Thank you. We have activated the Emergency Operations Center to level 2 with all attendance pillars and pre-positioned testing, isolation, and treatment facilities to care for the sick. In the last few days, we have received additional equipment and supplies. Let me reassure every citizen that our healthcare facilities are safe and ready, and the health workers are trained and ready to respond to any case. The safest place to get comprehensive medical care is the hospital. We have engaged development partners and discussed how we can leverage their interventions in order to soften the impact of COVID-19 on our socio-economic and economic life, and to support and protect our vulnerable in our society. We have declared a state of public emergency, suspended all commercial flights, and closed all land and river and borders to the movement of people. All educational institutions, from early childhood education centers to tertiary education institutions, we close today, Tuesday, 31st of March 2020, until further notice. We applaud private and state entities that have complemented our efforts at communicating the threat of coronavirus to our citizens. We are also most grateful to the Interreligious Council that in the deepest of turmoil has guided our supplication to God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to grant us wisdom, courage, and understanding to fend off this threat to our nation. May I extend my deep and sincere gratitude to the Parliament of the Republic of Sierra Leone for the gracious show of national solidarity in approving the state of public emergency and strengthening our collective hand to fight this deadly menace to our nation. As a government, we promise that our response will not only be flexible and multi-pronged, but also agile and robust and comprehensive. We will continue to adjust our response levels based on ongoing risk assessment and as circumstances warrant. I also promised that we will be open, transparent, and responsive to the views of citizens, because we believe that openness cultivates trust and confidence in what we are doing and why we are doing what we are doing. In my first address to the nation, I had indicated that it was not a matter of whether, but when. Ladies and gentlemen, the when is here. I have called this press conference today to announce that Sierra Leone has registered its index case. Case number 1 is imported. I repeat, case number 1 is imported. He is a male, 37 years old, and came to Sierra Leone from France on Air Brussels flight on the 16th of March 2020. He was immediately placed in quarantine. He was tested at the end of his quarantine period, and his result came back as positive. Now, as a nation, we should know that every minute matters. In order to prevent possible community infection, we have quickly isolated case 1. We have immediately and aggressively operationalized tracking and surveillance for all primary and secondary contacts. That is, every person case 1 may have come in contact with. Those persons will be placed into mandatory quarantine and tested immediately, starting today. From now on, I direct that health teams proactively seek out and compulsorily test all suspected cases. I also direct the following measures that must be implemented immediately. The government of Sierra Leone COVID-19 response team is now fully activated. As I've indicated, that team is led by retired Brigadier Kelly Hassan Gonte, Minister of Defense. He will work to oversee and work with all sectors for a coherent national response to COVID-19. We strongly urge all citizens to observe all hygiene and social distancing protocols. Hospital is the best place and the only place where qualified healthcare professionals can offer you comprehensive medical care. If you keep a person with the symptoms at home, the entire family and community is likely to get infected and die. Keep yourself safe and keep your loved ones safe by presenting them for immediate testing and health care. Again, immediately report all persons with symptoms, dry cough, fever, and difficulty breathing. A number of additional measures are in effect starting today, and I strongly urge strong compliance from every citizen. These will affect the transportation sector, traditional practices, religious practices, trading, entertainment, etc. The National COVID-19 Response Secretariat, led by Brigadier Kelly Conte, we announced the full raft of measures immediately after. Let me reiterate, this is not a lockdown. This is not a lockdown. But the government will respond rapidly to changes in the situation by announcing additional enhanced measures. As I end, fellow citizens, over the last 4 days we have offered supplication to God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to protect his people. These are not normal times, but these are the times to be deliberately thoughtful. In the coming days, let's keep reminding one another that we have a responsibility to keep one another safe. At this juncture, let me now invite the Head of Strategic Communications to moderate the questions from the press.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I will take a number of questions. We have a number of ground rules. You ask only one question. You do not repeat yourself. If a question has been asked, do not ask that same question. Please announce your name.
My name is Omar Fofana, BBC. Your Excellency, I understand that the 37-year-old person is married to a medical doctor. Has that doctor been working whilst the husband had been in isolation?
The Minister of Health, please.
Good afternoon all. We are indeed very lucky in the sense that on arrival of the individual on the 16th, he went straight into quarantine, and the only contact he had with his wife was to move him from the quarantine site to the hospital. Within that period, the wife has been doing her normal course of duty. The only contact had is between the quarantine site and the hospital, and indeed the wife is one of the primary contacts that we are going to test for COVID-19.
Let's have a question from the CSO, briefly.
What is the status of the medical consumable supply at 34 hospitals of now?
Again, let me express that we believe what we have needs to be augmented as we go along, but what we have as of now is reasonably adequate for to start to address the medical state of those that may be affected.
Let's this young man.
Mohammed Jawad with Political Newspaper. Now this news is going to trigger panic and paranoia, which will affect services like transportation and even commodity prices. Now, apart from medical measures, are you going to announce plans to stabilize the possible shock that this news may come with?
Yeah, certainly. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Certainly, some thoughts have been given to those issues already, but the structure itself is in the formative stage, and we'll be looking into those details later on, and it will be announced in another press conference from the center itself, the operation center. But yes, they are a bit considered.
I may just add that we have briefed this nation about this coming event. Unfortunately, it has landed in Sierra Leone. We are doing our best as a nation, as a government, to make sure that we contain this occurrence as quickly as we can. We just urge also the public to observe the protocols in terms of heightened hygiene, in terms of social distancing, cough etiquette, reporting, and being responsible as citizens of this nation. There is no need for panic. The COVID-19 is almost everywhere around the world. We as a nation should rise to the occasion and also fight. And in this fight, it is not just about the government. Each and every Sierra Leonean has a role to play. If we play our roles properly, we will get rid of this menace and we will live a better life as we did after Ebola.
The gentleman was back there. Wait for the microphone. No, the gentleman was back, please.
His Excellency the President, what Sierra Leonean needs at this time is hope, especially the poor of the poor. What economic policy does your government have with regards to that?
All right, I think the Minister of Finance is here. We may like to invite him to respond to that.
I think we had hinted on that about a week ago, but he will give you the specifics as to what we can do as a nation. These, like I said, these are difficult times, but we also recognize the fact that we have vulnerable people who can hardly afford to go by without support at this point in time. And quite a lot of measures are in place or are in the works, and the Minister of Finance may highlight some of those.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Your Excellency did mention that the program was presented to the partners. Together with that program was what we call Quick Action Economic Response Program, with a financing gap in the structure of $96 million in the long term of about $44 million. The program has 4 components. One on building stocks levels and maintaining price stability as commodity chain, supporting SMEs, that the SMEs that have been affected as a result of COVID-19. The third component is safety and equity, His Excellency mentioned. The other component is labor public works that can create alternative job opportunities and food production. That's the lively support. Is the program on track? We are in discussion with our partners. I'm pleased to report that the partners are more than willing to support this program. We are very pleased that we have thought and that alongside the health program, we designed an economic program. Thank you.
We'll take a question from civil society. Is it?
Good morning, Your Excellency. My name is Moses Mambo. Question is, what is going to happen to the other people who are quarantined together with the gentleman that has just proven as COVID-19?
Mr. President.
Let me reiterate that we have started already primary contact tracing. That is those that live with him at the quarantine site. And we will also screen, test, both primary and secondary contacts. That is those that would have gone home to their families. We would also screen those as well. We would like you to feel and rest assured that there are professionals with the skills to be able to link up the driver, the wife, those in the hotel, those that served him, to ensure that we fully screen and test all those that would have had any form of contact with the index case. I thank you.
Let's have one from the television, and then we may request a final one from a woman. Yes.
Sorry, clarification, Mr. Minister. When he said that he had been living in quarantine, I understand that he had actually left the quarantine and gone into isolation at home. Could you please clarify that point?
For that batch that came into quarantine on the 16th, they should have gone home on the 29th. However, the individual stayed behind until the 30th, until the wife picked him up from the quarantine site straight to the hospital.
We'll take one question from AIV, one question from SLBC, one question from a woman, and then I think we're done.
I am Swale Vandi. I work for AIV. My concern is with regards to the criteria being used for testing. I really want to know what are the signs the ministry sees in the patient before conducting the test. Because you will agree with me that we will have noticed this particular case long before if the test had been conducted. But so we really want to know, do you look out for signs before conducting? Because many believe that if we are doing random tests, we'll have got more than this. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your fear, but let me express before now, testing mode was for those that have shown signs and symptoms, and we have done 42 of those. Another testing mode is for those that may have come into contact with anyone that has proven to be positive. We were able to do 12 people on that were in contact with someone that went back to the UK and tested as corona positive. As of now, we have got an index case in Sierra Leone, and I will reiterate that we are going to test all primary and secondary contacts.
I think in addition also, we must recognize that medical equipment and supplies are in shortage right across the world, from even those who manufacture it. So we have to be sensible about the use of test kits. We had a reasonable number. Fortunately, we have had in the past couple of days additional supplies. So we are in position now to screen and to test more people. What we had at hand at the beginning was too small to go on testing everybody. So now we can actually test as many people as we can.
Thank you, Excellency. SLBC, please.
My name is Asmi Uba. Minister of Health, sir, how many cases do you think you can cope with at the moment, based on the facility of your life?
The methodology used is the PCR, polymerase chain reaction. A plate is a 96 well plate. However, if you have to be doing standard curves, repeats, you would reasonably do anything between 30 and 40 samples on a plate. We are now going to activate about 3 or 4 laboratories. So with that, we think nationally we are in reasonable position to test 100 tests per day.
Case management. He's talking about case management.
Case management. 3 sites have been designated as treatment centers. The one at 34 military is a 30-bed one, which can be expanded to a 100-bed one. But the 30-bed one is the isolation and treatment center as of now. The other is the Juwe Hospital, which is a 100-bed facility. Remember, with this ailment, a higher percentage would be those that may not necessarily be hospitalized. And those that could be hospitalized, the critical ones, we think as at now we are reasonably comfortable. This morning, the technical lead has been discussing with me to say we are going to send teams out such that we can have regional treatment centers as well.
This is unfortunately the last question. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Marcela Samba from Campaign Public Governance. Your Excellency, sir, mine is not like a question, but a hope request. Experiences from other countries have shown that isolation and testing has helped tremendously containing the virus. Can we consider a situation where restriction of movement can be considered at this early stage to understand the pattern of the spread?
Thank you very much. I think everything is available and we are not going to spare any option at the moment. We have just identified the index case. The tracing is going on as we speak here. And depending on the magnitude of spread after the testing would have taken place, we will decide on the raft of other measures to come into place. We have been able to identify this particular index case because we've been proactive. If we had allowed him to go home as a Sierra Leonean, we would never have made it. He would have, of course, caused infection in his home, community, and of course that we multiply by the day. So we are doing everything and everybody is invited somehow to be a part of this. Each and everybody should be a part of this. Protecting yourself means you are protecting me and this nation. So this is not about government, it is about us Sierra Leoneans, and I really want to appeal that the sensitization is heightened and everybody is informed about what the signs are, what we are supposed to do, and what we are not supposed to do. Congregating in large numbers should be avoided. We see some people still taking the liberty to go to club, to go to the beaches. We are going to heighten the measures, and we are going to make sure that this country will be able to control and contain this particular outbreak. Okay, go ahead, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think the fundamental measure here really we should all think about is our own self-discipline, really. As a nation, it is high time perhaps we drop some of those attitudes and behaviors that sometimes are rebellious for the sake of our individual selves, our families, our community, and the entire country as a whole. If you do not have a very important thing to do outside of your home, I think the first thing is please do not go out. If it is not very, very necessary for you to be out of your home, I think that's the very first measure we should all adhere to, so that you reduce the population that is out there that will make it difficult for social distancing to even take place. I think that's the very first fundamental one we should all adhere to. So coming from that, things like clubbing and social gatherings in large numbers should be a natural thing that we should just forget about. Put them first out of your programs and consider the national fight against coronavirus. This is a very, very serious issue, and I don't think we need to be reminded what Ebola did to us, because in many of the cases, actually, it was just carelessness and indiscipline on some of our compatriots. We cannot afford to repeat some of those mistakes. And I'm sure it is in our hands really to deal with many, many of these issues. For instance, issues of vehicles, to cut down on the capacity in your vehicle. This just comes in naturally. If you want to maintain some distance within your keke, for instance, don't overload it, for Christ's sake. In your podas, why overload it? People even load until the point where they have middle seats also even loaded. So these are some of the issues we should all really gear towards implementing by ourselves, by just self-discipline. If you look across the world today, those countries that took stringent measures and allowed their people to be self-disciplined and comply with these laws are fine today. Many of those that were a little bit slack on those issues found it very difficult down the road. And we all know what that means. So there are a series of laws, they will be coming up from time to time, as His Excellency has announced. But like the traditional practices, for instance, they've been banned clearly, and these are going to be reinforced when the teams are sent out to enforce them. We hope we will not need to use force really to enforce some of these things. We hope it will be your own natural instinct to obey these measures. But if it comes to that, for us to use force for people to understand what we are talking about, believe you me, we'll do that. In the name of Sierra Leone, we'll do it. So asking that we all cooperate with the law enforcement agencies, and this time includes soldiers too. So besides the police, the soldiers will in fact take most part of the work, especially in our border communities. We've already discussed with our colleague, the Minister of Youth, who will also be using our youth councils across the country. We've also spoken with the local government minister. He is also getting the paramountries and other local authorities. So join hands, because this is not just the security elements or the medical elements. It is across Sierra Leone. All of us have a part to play, and until we all cooperate fully towards this goal, it will be a Herculean task for us to achieve. If we do cooperate, believe you me, when once the medical people and the security elements isolate these cases that are coming, the rest is easy. Nobody else will get it. But if we don't comply with those, it's very, very easy to spread them. We hope we will not get to that. But we'll do our utmost best to ensure that people respect others. When you respect the law, you are simply respecting others. You are not afraid of anybody, but you are simply respecting yourselves as human beings and respect the national call for this fight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the Honourable Minister. I think the message from the President is very clear. There is no need to panic. This is not a lockdown, but we should take personal responsibility to make sure we comply and support the measures government have put in place. On that note, we would like to invite for the President to take his leave, the national anthem.
Republic of Sierra Leone, His Excellency President Julius Maada Bio, in his third address to the nation regarding COVID-19 prevention. Well, we've all heard it that the virus is now here. What we need to do is to definitely be cautious of the preventive measures being put in place by the Ministry of Health and Sanitation. It's now our responsibility as a nation. Practice social distancing, wash your hands. The virus is now here in country. And of course, you definitely have the responsibility to prevent it from reaching you. We have recorded, definitely. We will now get views and opinions of people here on what they think. Mr. Minister, good afternoon. Welcome to AYV.
Good afternoon.
I like disturbing you.
So I noticed.
Indeed. So we've just had the president inform the nation that yes, indeed, we've got COVID-19 in Sierra Leone. Did this come as a surprise?
No, that's why His Excellency, when presenting his earlier statement, he said we were just awaiting when. The footprint of COVID has been in the doorsteps for the Mano River Union for the last 2 weeks. In fact, as a nation, we should be proud that we were able to keep it out for this long. It shows that our early intervention has helped, and has helped very well. For us to start the earlier screening and for us to even quarantine. Imagine if we are not quarantining anybody at all. Then we would have missed this case. So it is confirming that all our steps are working well. The quarantine position to isolate people and store them, and the testing mode tells you the methodology is working and working well. We feel comfortable as a country, as of now, that if we are able to do full-fledged contact tracing, we will be in a position to contain this. But we see large numbers coming from Guinea, and Guinea is now on a community transmission. That is where the fear is, and we do hope we would be in a position to address it. But definitely, that is where the fear is.
Are we expecting more cases in Sierra Leone?
Yes, we are.
And why do you think we're expecting that?
Because there is community transmission in a neighboring country, and everyone, we have given a 72-hour window for people to come home, and the numbers coming home are quite large. So there is a possibility of 1 or 2 to have the disease as they come home.
The case at hand now must have come in contact with so many other people. How are you tracing them?
Not so many. There are specialists that are contact tracers, and the work has started. Let the public know that this time the people know exactly what to do. Among those we would trace, we would have to test. I cannot say now who would turn out to be positive, but if the number turns up to be large, it just shows community transmission have started. Then we have to put our skates on to try to keep the lead on that.
Mr. Minister, as I leave you, what will be your message to Sierra Leoneans?
We have done well before now. I must commend our people that indeed we have been most compliant, and I believe if we heighten the compliance, full-fledged social mobilization, the paramount chief, the councillors, the youth groups, the women, full-fledged compliance, we would be able to address this.
Thank you so very much for talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so very much, and of course he's the Minister of Health and Sanitation. I will now join the Honorable Minister of Information and Communication, Radu Swari. Good afternoon, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, good afternoon.
Let's start by getting the ministry's take on us having the first case in Sierra Leone.
Well, we're all very deeply saddened by this. It didn't happen for want of efforts. We had deployed our best efforts. In fact, it is as a result of our efforts that we were able to have kept the one index case in quarantine, right? He arrived on Brussels airline, like you very well know. He was driven straight to quarantine. So on the very last day of his quarantine, he tested positive with very limited contacts with people out of quarantine. So, I mean, this is a testimony to how hard we have worked. We are going to redouble our efforts, and we are calling on Sierra Leoneans everywhere to join this fight. This is a Sierra Leonean fight. This is a fight for the heart and soul of our country.
How effective have you been as a ministry to actually let the public know that yes, COVID-19 is dangerous and they should follow preventive measures?
Well, that is the first mistake you do, to arrogate the information dissemination exclusively to the Ministry of Information.
But you are a part of the unit.
It's not usually the best deal to evaluate yourself. I know we have made tremendous strides. We have been to every nook and cranny of the country. I mean, this is how I start my day. This is how I end my day. I virtually have uninterrupted. I hardly ever have uninterrupted moments, right? Reaching out on radio, community engagements, stakeholder engagements. We have been doing this across the country and even on social media. But again, like I say, no effort is going to be good enough without citizens owning this fight up, right? So that is why I like to appeal to the media. This is not a Ministry of Information and Communications fight. This is a disease that threatens to annihilate the world, right? We have seen it has humbled very resilient health systems across the world. So if we don't stand up together as a nation and confront this hydra-headed problem of a COVID-19, we are going to have difficulties ahead. So our strength, our conviction is in the resilience of the Sierra Leonean people to stand up at moments when it is most needed.
Mr. Minister, are you astonished that we've actually recorded the case?
Well, I'm not. The president in his previous address did say, we were literally very sandwiched by then. He did say it was not a matter of if but when, because we were at the time the only Mano River Union country that had not recorded a case. And the borders are porous. We had allowed air travel passengers in, so we are not surprised. We have done very well. So this is now going to be a test of our collective resolve as a country to ensure that COVID-19 does not spread out of control. We deal with it and deal with it decisively where it is.
Thanks so very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
He is the Minister of Information and Communication, Mohamed Radu Swari. We'll continue to talk to dignitaries here on their take on Sierra Leone recording the first case. Sir, can you introduce yourself to viewers?
Yeah, my name is Evan Siliosi, the country representative for WHO.
All right, WHO, and you are managing the affairs of health globally. How do you receive this particular case in Sierra Leone?
It's sad to have the first case, but I think the government has been very robust to delay the first case occurring in this country. It's now 91 days since we had this COVID-19 declared globally. And when you see, out of the 54 countries we have in Africa, there were only 5 remaining countries with 0 cases. So for Sierra Leone to have been among the last remaining 5, it's been an effort, and it's been a deliberate effort that the government took. If these measures were not put in place on time, we would already be having cases.
So now that we've got the first case, what is going to be WHO's intervention in actually letting the virus not spread across the country?
We have now a confirmed case. We need to look at the bigger picture beyond this single case that we have. And we should not just focus on this single case alone. When you look at many countries that have had cases, you had the first imported cases, but there were other cases that also came in. So we need to really strengthen the border screening. We need to tighten and create awareness across the country. So this case is just an indicator of a problem we have, but we should go and think beyond the first case and ensure that we are not missing any cases around our neighbors. Remember, all our neighbors have confirmed transmission, and we can see, if I say from Guinea, transmission has continued to increase. So it's very important that we look at the bigger picture this is coming with.
All right, as I leave you, what will be your message to Sierra Leoneans?
Support the government efforts. Please, the public should also take this into their hands and not just leave it to the government. You need to report any suspicious person you see in your community that has not been there. Remember the signs that you need to look for. Please wash your hands, social distancing, and avoid overcrowding.
Thank you so very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
He is the head of the WHO in Sierra Leone, and of course you've heard him. Well, from the civil society angle, I have the common face, Moses Mambu. Good afternoon, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon.
Yes, you've just heard the president, and it is now clear we are no longer preventing the virus, but rather trying to contain it. We've got the first case. As civil societies, how do you receive this?
Well, we are not surprised because I have been saying it for people who have been following my interviews that Sierra Leone will only have coronavirus case by 3 means, either our land borders, our water borders, or by air. And now today, one of those have been confirmed that we have a case by air. The good thing is, which Sierra Leone should be proud of, is that our air and land borders are now closed, and the coronavirus case we have just identified was also isolated, was in quarantine at Wokel village, was quarantined at Wokel village. So he had little contact with communities. However, this is the time, because Sierra Leone, they say seeing is believing. Sierra Leoneans need to see something, they feel it before they believe it and take action, just as we did for the Ebola. Now the corona is here. We are no more preventing. We are now trying to take out corona from Sierra Leone. Corona is here. So please, we are continuing our messaging, our normal messaging to citizens that nothing has changed. The president have said, don't panic. We don't need to panic. However, If you have nothing to do in town, you wake up in the morning, you have nothing to do, don't go to town, stay home. Because the thing is, we must maintain distance. There are other regulations who are coming up, and civil society, we are going to continue following up with government. But we are continuing talking to citizens, please don't cluster. The attire bases you used to go, the beaches you used to go, the restaurants you used to go, let us cut all those of the transportations we used to take. You need to ensure that if you have nothing to do, stay home.
Okay, Moses Mahmoud, thanks so very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Well, viewers, this is how we draw the curtain here at State House. Don't forget, it has been a press conference with His Excellency President Julius Maada Bio, and of course his third address to the nation on the COVID-19 virus. Well, we've had him. He has informed the nation that we've got the first case. You and I need to know that we have to practice all the measures being put in place by the Ministry of Health and Sanitation in order for us to prevent this thing from spreading. So Leo Vandi has been your commentator saying bye-bye-bye.